Geopolitics, Strategy and Diplomacy.
How does a small-town festival, a tradition rooted in centuries of history, suddenly light the fuse on an international diplomatic crisis? That's exactly what we're going to break down right now. It's a story about a local celebration, a giant effigy, and a global firestorm. This is your host, Ravi Kumar at Hispanicindia. Okay, I want you to picture this. A small town in the hills of southern Spain. The day is Easter Sunday. The air is electric. You know, it's festive. It's charged with tradition. But this year, the big finale of their celebration was about to send shockwaves way beyond the town square. Alright, let's dive into what actually happened. Because to really get the fallout, you first have to understand the spark. What exactly went down that Sunday in El Burgo? Yeah, we are not talking about some little doll here. The absolute centerpiece of this festival was a massive 23-foot-tall effigy of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. I mean, to put that into perspective for you, that is taller than a giraffe. The sheer scale of this thing was clearly designed to make a very big and very public statement. And then came the grand finale. This enormous figure stuffed with gunpowder was detonated in public as locals looked on, many of them cheering. It was a really dramatic, explosive spectacle, but the consequences of that explosion? Well, they were about to be felt thousands of miles away. Now you're probably thinking, why on earth would a town do this? It sounds pretty shocking, right? But to understand the motivation here, we have to look at the cultural context. This was not some random act. It's actually rooted in a very old tradition. You see, this whole event is part of a tradition called Quema de Judas, which basically means the burning of Judas. It goes back centuries and it's a deeply symbolic act. The effigy isn't just supposed to be a person. It's meant to represent what the community sees as evil, or a huge source of controversy in the world at that moment. And destroying it is meant to be like a symbolic purging of that evil. And what's really crucial to understand here is that this wasn't the first time a world leader was the subject. In fact, town officials said that in previous years, El Burgo had created and destroyed effigies of figures like Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. So, the key point is, from their local perspective, targeting a controversial political figure is simply how this tradition has evolved over time. But, as we're about to see, local context doesn't always translate on the world stage. What was a traditional, a bit provocative festival in Spain, very quickly escalated into a full-blown diplomatic firestorm. Israel's reaction was swift and it was incredibly strong. Their foreign ministry didn't see a quaint local custom. They saw, and this is their exact phrasing, systemic incitement. And they didn't just point the finger at the town. They pointed it directly at the Spanish government, blaming Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez for creating an environment where this kind of thing could even happen. And this right here just lays out the conflict perfectly. On the left, you've got the local custom, an annual tradition that participants see as a symbolic act against evil. And on the right, a major international incident that leads to a formal diplomatic reprimand and some very serious accusations. We're talking two completely different realities born from the exact same event. And look, Israel didn't just issue a strongly worded statement. No, they took concrete diplomatic action. First, Spain's most senior diplomat in Tel Aviv was officially called in and reprimanded. Second, the Spanish government was formally accused of incitement. And third, tensions escalated further as Spain also faced separate diplomatic fallout involving a coordination center in Kiryat Gat. These were not just symbolic gestures. These were real diplomatic consequences. So why does one festival in one small Spanish town matter so much to the rest of the world? Because this story, it really reveals a fundamental and honestly a growing tension in our modern world. Here it is. This is the absolute key takeaway. In our hyper-connected digital age, the whole idea of a local event is basically vanishing. A video from a town square can be filmed, uploaded, and circle the entire globe in minutes, totally stripped of its original cultural context, ready to spark an international crisis. And for India this matters too, even if indirectly. Why? Because India today has important ties with both Israel and Spain. So, when tensions rise between them, even over symbolism, New Delhi has reason to watch carefully. Not because this becomes an immediate India crisis, but because India now has meaningful strategic and economic links with both sides. What happens in El Burgo? Well, it definitely doesn't stay in El Burgo anymore. And that leaves us with a really challenging question to chew on. When a centuries-old tradition like this one clashes head-on with modern global politics and 21st century sensitivities, which one is supposed to give way? Should these ancient customs have to adapt for our connected world? Or does the world need to work harder to understand their local context? It's a question with no easy answer, that's for sure. And now I want to hear from you. Do you think this was a legitimate cultural tradition? Or did it cross a line in today's global political climate? And from India's point of view, is this just a distant controversy, or a reminder that even local symbolism can affect bigger diplomatic equations? Drop your view in the comments. If you enjoy sharp global analysis connecting India, Spain, Israel, Europe, and international affairs, subscribe to Hispanic India and join the conversation. Your perspective matters here. So comment below, and let's discuss this in our next podcast on Hispanic.
Drop your take in the comments and subscribe to Hispanic India for high-impact geopolitics that connects India, Europe, and Latin America.